When Dr. John C. Lilly, the inventor of the float tank, first entered into this sensory-deprived environment and the solitude and darkness that it provided, he realized that he had also ventured into a whole new world inside of himself. Our brains ring out in response to this lack of input from our external environment, and it allows us to go much deeper with our awareness and introspection. And with this awareness, we can start to transform ourselves. Change awaits within us. And that's one thing that we're all longing for right now. Are you ready to make a change, or are you already seeking change in your life? That's what we're going to be talking about, and how floating can help you with that in this video. While a lot around us has not been in our control lately, something that is always in our control is the actions and attitudes that we put towards the time and how we are making use of our time. In the past year, a lot of our routines have been shifted and changed, and it's brought about a lot more awareness and thinking within ourselves about what we desire from the change that we want to make. We get stuck in our routines and what we're used to because it's familiar and it becomes automatic. We don't even think about it anymore. Kind of like how when we pull into our driveway at the end of a long day of work and we don't even realize how exactly we got home because we were just driving pretty much on autopilot the entire time. Unless we are actually consciously trying to change our habits and behaviors, those bad habits or the things that we're used to automatically are going to take over before we even are aware that we are doing them. And it turns out that float tanks can really help us to start to make some of these changes within ourselves. It gives us a chance to tune out the external world and really go deep with some introspection on those bad habits and what we're trying to change, and really getting to the root cause of them. Understanding the underlying motives behind the behaviors you're trying to change is really one of the most important first steps to initiating long-lasting change. When first creating and refining the initial concept of the float tank, Dr. Lilly used that environment as a safe and controlled space in order to explore some of those underlying motives in his own behaviors and start to look at a way to program his mind in a more beneficial and positive way. By understanding the underlying source of bad habits and starting to learn about yourself at this deeper level, it's really one of the key first steps to initiating long-lasting changes for yourself. It starts with understanding what is your goal. The disruptions we've faced to our regular routines in the past year have really shifted in a lot of us and made the desire for change that much more tangible. And now is a great opportunity to use that sort of discomfort that we feel in order to initiate the changes that we seek to make. And we can also start to rebuild our routines and our lives in a better way. Rather than going back to the old status quo, we have this opportunity, and a lot of people are taking it, starting retirement early or making job and career changes and considering leaving the workforce or at least moving jobs is very common. And a lot of analysts are starting to say that there's going to be a mass exodus from people's jobs and career lines just because they've realized they've been unhappy for so long. And now that we have this pause and reset on everything, it may be an opportunity to start to move to a new direction. So think about how you want to rebuild yourself. If you're not excited about getting out of bed in the morning, what is it that makes you happy? Or what is it that gets you excited? And how can you start to rebuild with that in mind? Some of Dr. Lilly's work with float tanks was on how we can reprogram the concepts in our mind. And he termed this meta-programming. And it was a way of thinking of the computer programs that run our brain and how we can take that information and reprogram ourselves in better ways. Now, this is not like having some little guy working at a desk in your brain that's kind of coding everything. but more so about becoming aware of how you operate at a deeper level and working from that fundamental ground up to change things. Dr. Lilly believed that if we really focus on how those programs are written in our mind, we can get to the source of them and fundamentally rewrite them so that we can start to initiate changes. And this is why he called it meta-programming. And not only has it been Dr. Lilly who's found this very helpful, but many of the people that come in and float regularly have noticed that this has been a massive shift in their own life on becoming more self-aware and developing that introspective capacity. So we can use these changes in awareness to make changes in our habits. Because the float tank tunes out all of the external noise and distractions from our environment, we can really become more aware of what's going on within ourselves and start to question some of those ideas around our habits and our behaviors and why we do those things and what kind of changes we want. And also understanding the why behind those changes, what we're going to do to make a difference in our habits and our routines. And many of the tools and techniques that are being researched right now in the scientific community in order to improve physical well-being as well as mental health, they all revolve around raising awareness, which is also known as mindfulness. It sounds really simple to just pay more attention and become aware of our surroundings or aware of our inner state. But because of all the distractions and our attention being pulled in so many different directions these days, it's actually become harder than ever. Our external world is very demanding on our attention. It's using up a lot of our time as being pulled in many different directions. And that's where the great benefit of floating, just tuning everything out, has really come into making a massive change for a lot of people. We all crave the change. We all want more freedom, especially with the restrictions that have led to a lot of our freedoms being limited lately. It's really itched out of us this desire for initiating change. And of course, change is scary. It's something that is hard to do. It's something that takes quite a bit of effort. But if we get to the underlying why, we start to understand the root causes of why we want change and what change we really want, then we can start to have a better action plan moving forward with making those changes for the better. So the question that I want to leave you with is, how ready do you feel to make change in your life? And something that I've done is put together a readiness for change questionnaire or quiz that you can fill out. And it's going to help you to look at whatever goal or habit that you're trying to change right now and get to some of the underlying causes of it or some of the underlying principles behind what you value most, so that you can start to make that change, or at least identify if you're ready, willing, or able to make that change. So there's going to be a link in the description below if you want to click on that and fill out the Readiness for Change quiz for yourself. Thank you for tuning into the video. Make sure to fill out that Readiness for Change quiz for yourself if you're starting to make positive changes in your life, and I'll see you in the next video.